Perhaps you're wondering what the best career is for an INFJ, or what career or job to pursue, or what education to choose as an INFJ personality type. Let's break that down together. If you think you're an INFJ, you probably score relatively high in introversion, intuition, feeling, and judging, and you probably show high introverted intuition. That means that most likely you're going to prefer a career which allows you to be slow-paced, a career which allows you to be exploratory and to learn new things, a career that allows you to be compassionate and to connect with other people, and a career which allows you to work in a focused fashion rather than in an adaptable, spontaneous, or improvisatory fashion, right? There might be other qualities though that you might want to consider. For example, your level of assertiveness or modesty, right? Because if you are more assertive, you're probably more of a solo player. You probably find the thought of being a freelancer very appealing. You want to be a manager, you want to lead others, you want to make decisions, or things like that, right? On the other hand, if you score high in what some call turbulence, what I call modesty, you might be a person that prefers to work in a team-paced environment together with others in a service-oriented role rather than a leadership-oriented role, right? Regardless, the question is, what career do you love the most as an INFJ, right? The MBTI evolved to be a career-based, preference-based personality test. So the idea of the MBTI was to help people find whatever career or passion they had and to help them kindle and nurture that in themselves. So because of that, the MBTI quickly had a lot of expectations and assumptions about what careers and what jobs an INFJ might do well in. However, with the quickly changing landscape of how we work today and how the job world and career world is changing these days, I think we have a lot more freedom these days than what we did in the past to arrange and create our own job role at work. So what you need to learn to do, and what I think all INFJs should consider doing, is consider talking to your manager or boss or teammates about what your passions are and what your core skills are, and seeing if they can facilitate and help you go and grow more into those roles, right? So no matter what job you currently have or where you work at the moment, it's always possible to negotiate, and you should definitely try to negotiate for yourself at work and for your own well-being. A common problem for INFJs in career-wise situations is that they will compromise their own needs for the better of the organization, right? And what that can mean is that many INFJs look at what other people need from them rather than from what you as an INFJ can provide for other people. This is a problematic approach because you might have something very special that you can offer other people, but what you can offer is not always what other people need, right? So you're going to have to learn to look at and first think about what it is that you have and who you are, and then from there you can think of how you can give to other people. Because if you try to give to other people in areas where you feel weak or where you struggle or where you feel like you don't have enough, that's not going to help you and other people in the long run, because you're going to grow into a job role which you don't like and doing tasks that you don't like doing or feel good at, and you will do it out of a misguided desire to help and support your organization, but often in the longer perspective your organization will suffer because it's not going to grow as fast as if you had simply said to them that this is beyond my reach or beyond my ability or beyond my interests. You should find somebody else that can pick up these tasks, right? Now, I commonly see INFJs recommended for roles such as a counselor or therapist. This is a good choice for an INFJ. I'd also recommend the idea of being a teacher, and I'd recommend roles where you get to work in one-on-one situations with other people, preferred to group situations. I'd recommend most INFJs to consider roles which give them more time to work remote, and I would recommend INFJs to not necessarily try to nail themselves down to one career that they will have for the rest of their lives, but rather I recommend INFJs to have a pretty broad set of skills and general talents that they can change or grow into over time. So what that means is you should allow yourself as an INFJ to learn about multiple things, to explore different skills, to focus on the bigger perspective, right? Because you have high novelty seeking, right? And the higher your novelty seeking is, the more important it is that what you do is going to stimulate you intellectually and that it's going to help you learn new things. So if your job is limited in what it can teach you and what it can offer you, it's going to feel stifling and you're going to end up feeling stuck in there, right? So you're going to need to find a job or an organization or a company which is pretty large and pretty wide, because INFJs tend to do better in wide organizations which allow you to work and explore from multiple perspectives so you can understand the whole. I often see INFJs favor consultancy roles, right? And why do INFJs do so well in consultancy roles? Well, first of all, you get to harness your natural desire towards agreeableness and compassion, right? And that means you get to help and support other organizations and people in their growth. That means, for example, as an INFJ, you might want to work and grow into a career which allows you to, a career which allows you to work with many different organizations and companies. This is not just possible as a freelancer, but it's also possible to work as a consultant for example, customer service-based organizations, or as a consultant in terms of company growth or processes or efficiency or optimization or productivity. So there's lots of opportunities for you to come in as a consultant and to support other organizations, and also to work for a company that outsources consultancies to other organizations. INFJs tend to do better in advisory roles rather than direct roles. What that means is, because you're introverted, you might prefer to be a person that instructs and gives advice and gives feedback, rather than a person that's on the front lines, making decisions, taking actions, and running experiments, right? So if you're able to pick a role which allows you to work as a teacher or a supporter or coach, that's often preferred. Finally, let's talk about what you can do to have flow at work as an INFJ. Many INFJs experience a lot of job-related dissatisfaction. That means that many INFJs feel unsatisfied at their work and with their current employer or with their current co-workers. So what can you do as an INFJ to have fun at work and to flow more naturally with what you do? My recommendations are to not work the full 40 hours, but rather to choose for a 32 or 30-hour role if possible. I also recommend most people to prioritize their well-being and happiness over work. I believe INFJs are not necessarily very motivated for money or career or promotions, and so I think many INFJs will recognize that they're much happier if they allow themselves plenty of time for introspection, for walks in nature, for time with friends and family, and for time by themselves. I also recommend trying to deprioritize meetings as much as possible, because the truth is you don't have to attend all company meetings, and most people wouldn't even notice if you were there in the first place. I'd also recommend for most INFJs to have some kind of non-profit or charity work they can do, not necessarily every day, but maybe a few hours a week, to make sure that you feel like you're doing something for someone else, for somebody else, in a genuine sense. Preferably it should be an organization or a cause that you're very passionate about, because that also gives you personally inner fulfillment, right? I also recommend INFJs to have a few set of creative projects that they do for themselves. For example, you could write a novel, or you could draw, or you could do something which you do purely because of yourself and for yourself. Perhaps you'll publish it later, perhaps you won't, but regardless, if it's a project that you're passionate about and that stimulates your imagination, I think that's very important for you as an INFJ. Why do many INFJs struggle with burnout? A lot of INFJs have had and have experienced burnouts, and you might be wondering why that's the case. Well, in psychology they found that the primary reason for burnout is when people work too hard with no credit, right? Now, there are certain reasons why INFJs work too hard and get no credit. One reason might be because your judging or conscientiousness score might be too high. When your conscientiousness score is too high, you might end up taking on more than what you should, and you might forget how important it is to play, relax, and unwind, right? That's why I'm sitting here today, enjoying the nice cloudy weather. And that's why it's so important for me to just be able to be out doing something just for myself, just for the sake of being by myself. That's why I draw, doodle, write, and take notes wherever I go. And yeah, I've set up. The older I've gotten, the more important it has been to create room for myself to be a bit of a hippie, which means to be a bit free-spirited, to be a bit free-flowing, to be a bit more easygoing. I used to have a lot of very high goals as a young person growing up, but the older I got, the more I realized life is not a race. It's a journey, right? And you got to make yourself comfortable throughout. If you can learn to be responsible with your energy and your resources and to only put them into things that you are genuinely passionate about, and if you can learn to put yourself into things if you can learn to put into the world things that you are genuinely passionate about and things that make you feel good, I think you're going to feel a lot better. If you want to avoid burnout as an INFJ, it's absolutely important that you also learn to stand up for yourself in work and career-related situations. Your strategy of doing nice things for other people and hoping that you're going to get noticed and appreciated for what you do is not going to work in a corporate environment. A corporate environment requires active negotiation, and it requires a give and take process where you negotiate your terms and what you can offer with your employer. If your employer wants something for you, when you're with a friend or in a charity, you give because it feels good for you. When you're at work, you give because you get something back. That's how it works, and that's so important for you to remember as an INFJ at work. That doesn't mean that you can't feel like you're giving or contributing something at work. But that means that if you want to contribute something at work, and if you want to do something nice for your colleagues or for your boss at work, you should always ask for something in return, right? Yeah, those are my suggestions for INFJs at work. I hope this video helped you, and I hope that you will go on to have a very fulfilling career life and plenty of work-life balance. Thank you so much for watching, and see you all in the next video.